Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu salam, rasulullah, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Tariq Khalid. I'd like to welcome to our program here at Sharjah Broadcasting Authority on getting closer to Allah, getting to know your Lord, creator and sustainer of all things. And today we want to talk about doing the things, being tolerant and clement, and understanding our neighbors, our family, our neighbors, our colleagues. How important that is to be tolerant, to be patient. And many of us, we're not very patient, even with our children. And sometimes, of course, that becomes difficult. Or our spouses. But in time, I think most of us learn. And if we haven't learned, then we should take the time out to practice. And Allah says in Surah Al-Imran, this is Surah number 3, verse number 134, Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Who represses anger and who pardons men, verily Allah loves the muhsineen. Allah loves the good doers. And in Surah number 41, verse number 34 and 35, Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. The good deed and the evil deed cannot be equal. The good and the evil cannot be equal. Reject the evil with one which is better. Allah orders the faithful believers to be patient at the time of anger and to excuse those who treat them badly. It's not easy. It's not easy. But the thing is that if we look at ourselves and we try to see, who do I really want to obey? Who is it that is really important for me, that accepts me, my deeds and actions? Who am I living for? If we can keep this in front of ourselves all the time, then we can be focused and we can kind of work our way through the distractions. Then verily he, between whom and you there was enmity, will become as though he was a close friend. But none is granted, meaning the above quality, except those who are patient. And none is granted except the owner of the great portion of happiness in the hereafter, paradise, and of a high moral character in this world. So there's an old saying, right? Patience is a virtue. And many of us know that we don't have patience. And those of us who say, man, I'm still not patient today at my age, we know the reality of not having this quality. And not just that, suffering the consequences in many instances because we don't. So the younger that a person learns this, the better, where he can begin to practice this on a regular basis, as opposed to, being in such a hurry. And that's not easy in today's world, because today's world is orientated towards the digital lifestyle, push button remote control. So if you look at a lot of the young children now, they can't sit still. They're playing games. If they're not playing games, they're like they're playing a game. They're moving here and there. They can't sit still. They can't move. They can't sit down for 5 minutes. They're moving here and there. All day long they're moving, as though their nervous systems have been out of whack, which there's a certain amount of truth to that. So we need to look at ourselves, internalize. When am I today? Where am I? Where am I going? What is my mission? If I get off track, I get distracted. Where am I now? How have I gotten distracted like this? How do I get back on the path? How do I stay focused and conscious on my objective? And to distinguish between what is the path of righteousness and what is the path that is astray. We're seeing today in our lifetime, much of what is clearly astray has become normal. People, they say, well, listen, why are you telling me that? Everybody's like this. Look around you. Are you a dinosaur? Why should I be any different? Am I doing anything illegal? Am I harming anyone? And I listened to some of the dialogue that's going on today between people from different places, different age group, different gender. And I've mentioned this before. Some of it is really baffling, for lack of a better description. Because I've seen some people, they're very intelligent, very highly educated, and they don't have common sense. They're just regurgitating information like a computer. They absorb this material and they're just regurgitating it without thinking about what they're saying and the practical applications realistically in the world that we live in. Or many people have become so disorientated that they're only thinking about themselves. Not even their families. In some instances, some people, not even their families, just themselves. And that happens in different degrees. Some just their families, just their tribe, or some just their nation, an example, in different degrees. Without the reality that all of us know. And this is not just to use common conversation, but the world has changed. 21st century is different than any other time. It is very clear. But we're carrying many of the same old prejudices, injustices, and discrimination. So what will be the impact of that? If the world has shrunk, not so physically, but because the numbers of the population has increased, for one. Technologies which we're using has had its impact on the mentality, which has affected people in many different ways. Transportation has changed the whole world. Even though right now we're in this pandemic, so people are not moving around so much, which may be a good thing in one way, where people begin to reflect and be concerned about where they are and try to work and take care of their families and the other people in their neighborhoods. And you see more people now become community oriented. They have more time to think about them, not just themselves, but their community and others and their nation. So if we look at this in comparison to where we are today and how the world has shrunk in this way, not physically, doesn't it only make sense that we should be more systematic in our obedience to Allah and communicating that to other people so we can resolve issues? And narrated Aisha radiallahu anha, the Prophet ﷺ said, Allah is kind and loves kindness in all matters. And this is collected by the Qadims. Allah is kind and loves kindness. And I'm saying this again, Allah is kind and loves kindness. We know that there are many, many kind people in the world, and I've been very blessed to meet so many in so many different places. And I'm living in a place because the people have been so very kind to me. In the UAE, and particularly in Sharjah, the people have been so very kind to me and my family. And I'm proud and happy to say this openly to the whole world. that we thank Allah for the people that we've met in this country and the associations and that we've had over the years, and the benefits from these relationships are above and beyond what we could ever imagine. Alhamdulillah. And narrated Aisha, radiallahu anha, the Prophet ﷺ said, Allah is kind and he loves kindness and confers upon kindness, which he does not confer upon severity, and does not confer upon anything besides it, meaning kindness. And this is Muslim. So, where does that leave a heartless person? Because we have many people in the world who are heartless. Yes? They don't care. And this is not a myth, it's a fact. And their actions have shown that. That humans are only there for their use. They're like, literally, like pawns on a chessboard for them. They have no concern about human beings or anything else for that matter. Oh, and some of them are subhanAllah, they're more concerned about a cat or a dog or a horse. That's an example. They show more concern and kindness to them than they do to other human beings. And there are many people like this in the world. And I've met people who say, I don't like humans. They love cats and dogs. May Allah protect us. And narrated Aisha anha, the Prophet ﷺ said, whenever kindness is added to something, it adorns it. And whatever is withdrawn from something, it leaves it defective. It's clicked by Muslim. It leaves it defective. And unfortunately, this is a reflection for the war makers and the warmongers, the people who were rushing to kill and to maim and to destroy. What do you think will be your condition when you come before your Lord? How will you answer? How will you account? Some people say, well, you know, like the Nazis, we were just following orders. To this degree, to slaughter men, women, and children, you're following orders? What about the fear of your Creator? What about that? What about having to answer and about this? So unfortunately, we have men without mercy. And also there are women too. Unfortunately too, this is not a gender thing. We hear people talk about the gender thing. No. This is not a gender thing. No. There are women who are worse than men. Yes, indeed. Without question, there's no doubt about that. And we would think that the woman would understand and have more sensitivity and more concern based on her nature, how she was created. But we need to understand something. When people go away from the belief in Allah and become slaves of their desires, then they become no longer, let's say, human. They become literally robots to their dysfunction. So they just follow. And they, in their minds, convince themselves of whatever they have been brainwashed to think, the justification for their actions. Or they become insensitive. And if you see some of the interviews with mass murderers, and they're just insensitive. Well, why did you kill the person? Well, I heard a voice, and the voice told me to kill. So, well, you just a voice told you, and you just followed the voice? Yeah, it seemed like I became another person, and something took over me, and I did so and so. Okay, well, why did you kill this person? Well, you know, I really didn't like him, or I really didn't like her, or I really loved her, or I really loved him. So I didn't want anyone else to have him or anyone else to have her. Or, I'm following my group, and our group says so and so and so, and we go up and kill women and children. So in today's world, we see people justifying in their minds their actions. But we look and see, have they taken out in consideration that your actions you have to account for, that you have to answer to Allah, that murder, for example, is taken very seriously Islamically. And why is that? Because if we live in a land of murderers, then what is it? What are you going to be? The king of the graveyard? It's not an equation that's very logical. But we see today, all over the world, you see boys, little girls with rifles, little boys that big, with a bunch of bandolier bullets on his chest. So the brainwashing process has begun from the time that he's a child. So he's lost the reality, the fear of his creator and accountability. He thinks that his weapon will solve all problems. I have the upper hand over you. Now you will have to do what I say do. And if not, if there's conflict, then I can deal with you. We're par, we're equal now. And you see people using this also. Well, if I'm allowed to be like so-and-so, then I'll be par with so-and-so. And as a result, the madness escalates. And Satan will make sure that there will be a conflicting point at some time. So tolerance, communication, patience is essential for us today. When one man or two men or three men can push some buttons and destroy cities, and the people don't know Allah, may Allah help us. And we should all pray and ask Allah to protect us. My name is Tariq Khalid. I'd like to thank you for joining us here at Sharjah Broadcasting Authority. And it's Allah's mercy and grace that we have this opportunity. And we pray that Allah keeps us safe and keeps this world in one piece, and that we'll be able to, our leaders, by Allah's mercy, will be able to communicate to others about the essence and importance of obeying the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in that is our real security. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.